everyone, and welcome to National Treasure Hunt, the podcast where the secret lies not only with Charlotte, but also with your co hosts. I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Emily.
and today we are going to literally get into the minds of our National Treasure movie characters. We're talking psychology today.
We are. I got nervous for a second because I thought, Aubrey, that you just said mines, as in like coal mines. And I was like, ooh, I prepared for the wrong episode. But I'm glad to know that this is something that is indeed minorly in my wheelhouse. I'm not a
Yes.
psychologist. I would like to state that, but I am familiar with some of the concepts. Yeah,
I think
that feels fair.
you're in better shape than I think most people would be to really lead this episode. And I was trying to think back since I feel like at the beginning of a lot of our episodes this season, we've been talking about where the idea for the episode came from. I feel like this might have come from our injuries episode last season when we were doing physical injuries, but we could talk like mental injuries, if you will.
To be clear, we're not diagnosing anyone with anything mental health wise today, but we will be taking a look at their psyches.
Indeed. Well, regardless of what we want to call it, I'm excited to get into it, but we have a couple of business items, as usual, to get out of the way before we start. And the first of those, of course, is our screams from Parkington Lane. All right, hit me. How has National Treasure infiltrated your life lately?
So this is more a national treasure hunt, but I think still relevant.
Okay.
I have been parking my car in a different spot on campus, and it is right next to an art building. And it looks like it's a building where um, students kind of can just go and create like artworks in there. But there's also like some component of it where it's like also painting and drawing and stuff on the outside of the house.
Okay.
Um, and around one of the door frames, there is a Kilroy,
Really?
which is, yeah. And so for those that don't know, it is something that we talk about a bit on our Washington, D.C. National Treasure Hunt tour. And so every time I see it, I'm like, I know what that is.
That's crazy. That's a really good one. Can you take a picture of it one time?
I have a picture of it.
Okay, good. So my screen today also has a picture associated with it. So we're gonna get some social media content up in there for y'all. Um, I do you know how iPhones now, like if you go into your Photos app, they do all this fancy stuff like creating collages and videos, and they also
Mm-hmm.
auto sort your photos into collections. And one type of collection is they'll take people, like the faces of people that you have
Mm-hmm.
frequent photos of, and put them in their own folders. So I wonder if you know where this is going. I was just randomly scrolling through that one day, and there was a whole folder auto generated for Nicolas Cage.
That tracks.
Okay, I'm not crazy, you guys. We've talked about this before. I manage our social media. I'm very focused on our content right now. And so apparently there are enough photos of Nick Cage in my phone that he warrants his own, folder. I will say it surprised me because I try to delete the photos and screenshots as soon as I use them so that they don't take up space on my phone.
Mm.
So clearly I've missed a lot.
Yeah. Like, there are usually a good amount of photos in those things, so.
I know. Whatever. I admit it. It's okay. And you're going to see a screenshot of that as well as the picture of Emily's Kilroy. But let's move it on because we have a lot to do today. Let's then go into our brief look back into the National Treasure Hunt back catalog in case you're new here and you want to go listen to something from the olden days and you don't know where to start. So today we are briefly looking back on episode 16, Hunt for Indiana Jones.
I feel like this is the beginning of our villain origin story.
Yes, our villain. I was thinking about it. Was it this one or was it the Da Vinci Code back in season 1?
Yours was Da Vinci Code.
And yours was Indiana Jones?
Mine was Indiana Jones.
All right, so tell me what you remember about this comparing National Treasure to Indiana Jones episode.
I remember that I had to watch Indiana Jones,
Deep.
and it was underwhelming to me.
Ooh.
Um, I remember that I was very annoyed and went on a whole rampage about the music not really having the main theme until like 3/4 of the way through the film, and like how
Mhm.
National Treasure would never. Um and yeah, I do think this started in my head, the competition between Indiana Jones and National Treasure.
Yeah. So this is a good one for you guys to go back and listen to. Obviously, especially if you're new here, um, Indiana Jones is the number one franchise that National Treasure gets compared to, whether deservedly or undeservedly. And you'll be able to weigh in on whether it is deservedly or undeservedly after you go back and listen to episode 16. And then tell us your thoughts.
Yes, and you can do that by one, subscribing to our new National Treasure Hunt YouTube channel. Tell us your thoughts there, but
Hmm.
also please do subscribe. We're also available on both X and Instagram at NT Hunt Podcast. And you can also visit us on our website, nthuntpodcast.com, where you can find information about our books, events, etc. Basically everything but our bathroom schedules. Bring
The
that one
most
back.
No, please don't. Honestly, the most important part about our website right now is that we have a lot of stuff coming up for you guys. One thing that Emily already referenced just a couple moments ago, and that is tours, that is events. So let's quickly run down the list here. If you are listening to this episode on the day it comes out, I might be seeing some of you tonight at the Houston Museum of Natural Science for our interactive lecture, National Treasure Hunt Live. Um, but if you can't make that one and you want to come to our next event on our America 250 tour, it is right around the corner on Saturday, April 11th in historic Williamsburg, Virginia. We'll be holding a heist night event at the Jamestown settlement. Like literally, you guys, at the entrance to the Jamestown settlement. Like that's crazy. Um, and we're doing that in partnership with the Jamestown Yorktown Foundation. You can get your tickets now at the link in our show notes or at jyfmuseums.org. Now for the tour of it all. Okay. Registrations are open for you to come see Kilroy with us in Washington, D.C. on our annual spring NTH tour. It is happening Saturday, April 25th, and the sign up form is available on our website, like Emily told you, or in the show notes for this episode. And speaking of tours, kind of have a big announcement, wouldn't you say, Em?
Yeah. Well, big announcement on the pod.
Right. That's correct. I mean, if you're following us on social media, you know about this, but not all of our listeners follow us on social
That's
media.
true. That's true.
By popular demand, we are launching the Philadelphia version of the National Treasure Hunt Tour, and that is starting this spring. Signups are now open. The first ever spring Philadelphia National Treasure Hunt Tour will run on Saturday, May 9th. Be there or be square.
Yay! I'm really pumped, y'all. I know I was like, I'm never doing it. And then we did it. Because as with everything National Treasure Hunt related, Aubrey has some good ideas and eventually gets me in line.
Wow, saying Aubrey has some good ideas as
Some.
usual was like the
Some.
nicest thing you've ever said to me.
That
So,
is not. I say I love you all the time and you never respond.
not never. If you've been on our tour in DC, the Philly tour is different. I mean, you're going to see some of the similar activities and a similar style, but all of the content, of course, the sites are different. So we really hope to see you again to experience the Philly version. And now we can move on.
Yes, so this episode, as Aubrey already alluded to, is about the psychology of our National Treasure characters. And if you know anything about psychology, you know that there's a lot of ways we could have organized this episode. And so, to give you a quick idea of what is going to happen, we are going to be breaking our characters into key groups. And we're going to be talking about those key groups kind of individually, but then summing the groups up as a whole. So, we're going to have our heroes and like main characters. We're going to have our parents or secondary characters. And then we're going to have our villains. Unfortunately, Water did not make the cut, but
Mm-mm.
I'm sure I could do the psychological profile of Water as well at some point in time. We are going to spend the majority of our time, probably unsurprisingly, with the heroes and main characters. And then we'll touch on the characters in the other groups. So, Aubrey, I know that you were a little scared when you said that I was going to be leading this episode because you did not know what it was going to look like. Are you still nervous?
I'm always nervous when I have to relinquish the reins a little bit to you or anyone. It's not just a you thing. I'm
Mhm.
very type A. So I'm a little nervous. I don't know what that means about my psychology, but I have a feeling that after this episode today, I'll be able to make some predictions.
I was going to say I might be able to make some predictions right now based on the main metric that we're going to be using. So, when I was thinking about what to do with this episode, I got really interested in looking at our characters' uh, attachment styles. So, attachment styles are relational. They are emotional patterns and behaviors that individuals form over the course of their lives, and they influence how these individuals interact with others in all kinds of relationships in their lives.
Mhm.
And since we're always talking about character relationships and how much we love that in the franchise, like it felt like the right move.
I will say that as someone even who's not really in the psychology space, this is a term that I feel like attachment style is a term that is kind of hot right now. I
Mm,
hear it talked about in podcasts that I listen to all the time, especially I watch a lot of reality dating shows and people are constantly assessing like the attachment style of the bachelor or the love is blind person or what have you. So I'm really I haven't had a lot of experience relating the attachment styles in, like, non-relationship context, so I'm really excited to see and what by re I should back up. Not relationship,
romantic.
romantic relationship, exactly. So I'm
Mm,
excited to see it extend beyond that concept today.
yeah, and I mean, I it definitely is going to because what I did is I went and filled out an attachment style quiz 3 separate times for each of our 3 main
Oh.
characters.
Yeah.
And I did this based on what we know about them at the beginning of the first film. Okay, because I do believe that their
Okay.
attachment styles probably change over the course of the film. But I wanted to start there. The quiz is free. It can be found on the website for the attachment project. We can put the link in our notes. And basically, I got a breakdown of their attachment styles across many different facets of their life, their general attachment style. There were some questions about like coworkers and
Hmm.
parents and that kind of stuff. So you definitely are going to get more than a romantic kind of component here. So we're going to talk about how we see these different attachment styles that uh, apparently these characters have based on the quiz I took for them,
Okay.
how they play out in the films, and then we're going to use what we learn from our 3 main characters, and we are going to play a fun game and try to describe one of the attachment styles to each of our secondary and tertiary
Fun.
characters.
Okay. Okay, I'm excited.
That okay? Awesome. Let's go. Are
Let's
you
go.
ready?
So I am ready. Are we starting with the heroes and main characters then so we can like learn how these quizzes work? So, are we starting
Yeah.
with Ben?
Yeah, we are starting with Ben.
Okay.
I had to get in the mind of Ben for this one. So I answered a lot of questions about Ben. Made some assumptions, but lot of questions.
Were you fair?
Oh, I think I was fair for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, including
And
Riley.
you would be pleased. You would be pleased with what we're gonna see here. Because Ben his general attachment style is secure, which
Okay.
is the healthiest.
Okay. Well, we like that for our model hero, I guess. The one
We
we all wanna
do.
be.
We do. Yeah. It suggests that he has both low anxiety and low avoidance behaviors. So he's not
Okay.
afraid to kind of jump into a challenge, but he's also not like excessively anxious when he does it. He just kind of does the thing.
Which is super characteristic of when he's doing any of the very high risk activities that he is undertaking in the movies.
100%. He also has a really strong sense of self.
Yeah.
And I feel like this one, I mean, he's very confident in what he knows, in what his goal is, and what he wants to do in life. I feel like that is top notch, Ben.
I think confidence is honestly one of his most defining characteristics. It's confidence not just in himself, but like all of his abilities, all of his knowledge. You really I think if he was not as secure as he is and as you've described, think of the interaction in the Urban Outfitters when Riley comes with the knowledge that Ben doesn't have. Right? That doesn't threaten Ben at all. He's just like, "Give it to me. We need this to
Right.
proceed." You know what I mean?
Please just tell me. Like, let's
Yeah.
keep going.
But
No, I totally agree.
you could imagine someone in his position actually being threatened by that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, I mean, I think it's good that as our main character, he is not, right? It,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
seems positive. Okay, so here I have one that I want to hear your thoughts on.
All right.
Suggests that Ben is, because of his secure attachment style, comfortable being alone or in a relationship. Do you agree with this?
Like he's comfortable either way.
Like a romantic relationship? Yeah.
Um, well, I think he's definitely comfortable alone because we're led to believe that's sort of his whole MO leading into the action of the movie. Comfortable in a relationship, I do think he is comfortable in a relationship, but the person he's with might not be comfortable with him. It's like a do you know what I mean? Like, I think he thinks he's good and, like, he's happy with Abigail, etcetera. Like, he does not know when she's having issues, so
Right. He thinks
that's a
he's
different
doing a good
issue.
job.
Right, exactly. So, yes, I think if you're asking him, he would agree that he is comfortable in a relationship.
Right, which is what the what that was what the instructions told me to do.
Okay.
Um, because I was also doing this, it's set like from the beginning of the film, in which time he was not in a relationship.
Right, right,
So,
right.
okay, cool. Um, that being said, and I think you suggested this with your last response, the idea of a secure attachment is that Ben would be someone capable of initiating and like maintaining a meaningful relationship. And this doesn't just
Mhm,
have to be romantic. I mean,
mhm.
let's think about Riley, like Ben
Yeah,
and Riley.
yeah. I mean, he exhibits loyalty. I think he also, in terms of initiating relationships, for what it's worth, he is the initiant in the relationship with Abigail, both friendly and romantically.
It's
Um,
true.
so yeah, I think that also plays with the confidence angle.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then for Ben, I had a wonderful opportunity to actually answer questions on this assessment pertaining to his parental relationships because we know both of
No.
his parents.
Oh,
We do not know
fun.
anyone else's parents, so that
Right.
did not happen for them. But after filling this out, Ben is supposedly has a fearful, avoidant, and disorganized attachment style with the mother caregiver in his life. This basically means that he has high anxiety and high avoidance surrounding the relationship. So he's stressed about the interactions. He feels like there could be some abandonment, like he's afraid of abandonment in that situation, which to be fair, she did literally was the one who made the decision to,
To leave.
break up the family for, I think for the right reasons, but she did. Um, and we don't really get the sense that he's necessarily like visiting her all the time.
Right.
Even in the second film, so it does seem like he has some amount of avoidance, especially if we consider it within the context of the fact that he's still hunting for this treasure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I could see that. I actually I've always thought that he had a healthier relationship with his mom than with his dad. So I'm curious where you land with the father figure. And even though this doesn't sound great in terms of his relationship with his mom, is it better than the father figure?
So I don't know. It's hard to ascribe good and bad to these things. It is different with Patrick. So the
Okay.
caregiver attachment style for Ben is dismissive avoidant. So it doesn't have the fearful component to it. It mainly is just high avoidance. He isn't
Okay.
as concerned that his dad is going to abandon him. He isn't um highly anxious about his interactions with his dad, but I think because his dad is still very much in his life, he is more willing to kind of dismiss his input and avoid, like, actively try to avoid being in situations where he could receive that input.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree with that
Okay.
at all. I
Awesome.
think
So yeah.
one thing that I do wanna say is when I think of psychology, I think a lot about, like, what motivates people, and
Mhm.
so I do find it interesting that for someone who is so motivated by family, Ben doesn't have the strongest relationships with his family in terms of this attachment style exercise.
Yeah, I mean, but that could also be, like, part of him feels like by proving his family isn't crazy, like, maybe in some way he feels like he can fix this situation,
Oh.
which to his credit, he kinda does.
He does. With his relationships with his family and their relationships with one another. That's
Mhm.
really, really interesting. Um, wow. I'll have to sit with that.
I broke Aubrey.
You have to do a lot more than that to break me, my friend, but
Okay. Are you ready to move on to Abigail, our
I
girl?
am, and I'm really excited to do Abigail because as we discussed earlier this season, we know so little about her. So I want to know first things first, how hard was it to do this quiz for her? And how much of our Abigail's Office episode, aka our new lore, did you inject into your answers?
Okay, so I did not inject new lore. I tried
Good.
to be as like true to the film as possible. I did use some of the interactions
Okay.
um from that episode that we saw when watching the film and talked about in filling this out, but like I didn't get a family dynamic for Abigail. What I was able to get from her was more of her co-worker situation
Interesting.
because she's the only one we see, like, in a job.
Yeah, it's true.
Not to say that, other people didn't have jobs, but she's the only one who we actively see in her job. So I did try to keep it consistent, and honestly, I put myself in Abigail mode and just
Okay.
answered the questions kind of gut reaction. So let's see. Abigail's general attachment style after my filling out this quiz for her was avoidant slash dismissive. What are your
Tell me
initial
more.
thoughts about that?
My initial thoughts are tell me more because I because well, number 1, I don't know what all the attachment styles are. So, like, I don't know I can't, like, go into my brain and be like, "Oh, this one sounds more accurate," or anything like that. I also don't disagree with this. This is why I say tell me more. It's just like I don't know how I would have answered these questions because we know so little about her. Can we even know that she's avoidant or dismissive? I don't know.
I think we can. Because if
Okay,
we look at kind of the breakdown of this attachment style, right? Some of the characteristics include preferring to maintain some form of emotional distance. She definitely prefers to do that with Stan.
for sure.
Um,
Could be for multiple reasons though. I
true.
mean, she seems to have a decent relationship with her like assistant.
She does, but I don't know how emotional that relationship is. It might
Yeah.
just be very like surface level,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She very much maintained emotional distance from Ben and Riley at first. She was interested in what they were saying, but she was
Mhm.
not willing to like really get invested right
Sure.
away. Another thing that I don't know that I have a great example for, so I'll be interested to hear if you do. She had supposedly this means she would have some difficulty expressing her emotions. I don't know if I see that, but
My reaction to that is just stereotypical is like, is she just German? Do you know what I mean? In which case it is,
yeah,
I don't know, it's a little self-consistent, but like, that's my reaction to that.
okay. So the next couple I think are good. She doesn't like being dependent on others and views herself as independent.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
This to me feels like very Abigail. Her initial reluctance to not be part of the hunt, right? Like she doesn't want to be dependent on Ben and Riley for this. I get the impression that she is very, secure in her job
mhm,
and therefore doesn't really like she doesn't really take crap from people.
mhm. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Low anxiety is also a characteristic of this, which I mean, if we compare Abigail to Riley, I feel like valid. Um, I would
That's very
say
true.
she is oddly not that concerned about her job when she does join up for the treasure hunt.
I don't think it's that she's not concerned about her job, she's not concerned about, because she knows she's gonna lose her job, right? Like, she says that, but she doesn't seem to care that she's gonna lose her job. So that's where I think you're on the money there
Yeah,
with the low anxiety.
because I think she also has high confidence in herself, high self esteem.
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
knows her knowledge, and especially once we see her on the hunt, she knows that she can come at Ben with that knowledge and very much kind of be his equal in their
Right.
conversation.
Right. And something that really sticks out to me about Abigail in terms of one of her main characteristics, if Ben's key characteristic is confidence, and we know that Abigail is also confident, and they're these sort of equals slash complements, to me, Abigail's key characteristic is curiosity. And we know
Mm,
Ben also has a great deal of curiosity. So, like, I'm struck by once they've revealed the cipher on the back of the declaration, and she's just, like, marveling. She's like, "All this time, and we never knew it was on the back," and that's really
mm,
it's the curiosity that gets her to join the hunt to begin with, and I think that it's only with a high level of self-esteem that you just described, that you can let your curiosity take over, especially when she is the representative of the bona fide historical community in this trio. And we know that the bona fide historical community is not supposed to believe in this. It's kind of like a scientist being like, oh, yeah, of course there's aliens, right? Like a lot of people
mhm.
aren't, you know what I mean? It takes a level of
Yeah,
confidence, you know?
I love that. I totally agree with that, and I like that. I think it's really cool that, like, the motivation really fits in nicely with this,
Hmm. Yeah.
relationship, assessment, attachment style.
I do want to quickly also acknowledge that when I was thinking about Abigail as a character and like the character traits that I would ascribe to her psychology, I for the first time saw a parallel with Riley that I never saw before. And since we're going to get to Riley in a second, I do want to bring it up here.
Mhm.
Let's think about that low anxiety about losing her job for just a moment. She is so willing to give in to her curiosity, despite the fact that it'll probably cost her her job, that I wondered for the first time if she was actually a little bit like Riley and a little bit bored in her day job, and she was looking for stimulation, and that's why it didn't take as much as it probably should have taken her to,
Hmm.
go squeeze some lemons on the back of the Declaration of Independence, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Ooh. I don't know how I feel about that, but I like in terms of Abigail being close to Riley, but I agree. Like I think that is a correct observation that
You
I
know,
definitely never thought of.
there's a lot of fanfic out there that has Abigail and Riley together as a couple.
How do you know this?
Because 'cause I'm very online for National Treasure so that I know everything people are thinking so that we can talk about it.
Is it good?
I've not really read it because I don't ascribe to the Riley and Abigail of it all, nor do I really ascribe to fanfic, but I
I
do know
think
it
we should have an
exists.
episode.
I see you Tumblr people. You want me to add that to the list,
No,
for a future episode?
please don't. Okay, so are we ready to do Riley now?
Yes, I am actually really excited to do Riley just because of my book. I feel like I know him so well now.
I'll be interested to hear if you agree with this then, because I definitely do, and also had the easiest time filling this one out.
Shocker. This is my surprise face.
So, Riley's general attachment style, according to the quiz that I took for him, is anxious slash preoccupied.
Yes.
Yeah, right? So, characteristics include high anxiety.
Mhm.
Anytime, I mean, I would say rightfully so, anytime they're getting like shot at, valid.
Mhm.
When Ben says he's going to steal the Declaration of Independence,
Yep.
valid. Um, Very jumpy, right? Like when he
Mhm.
sees the skeletons in
Mhm.
the Charlotte.
Yep.
So that tracks.
So, I also wanna say that this is the mark of good writing, because if Riley is in fact supposed to be the representative of the audience in this trio, one thing that I have learned from all of my podcasts is that anxious attachment styles are really common. Like,
Oh
a
yeah, this is
lot
mine.
this is what in my limited exposure to attachment styles, it seems like everyone is an anxious attachment that I hear about in terms of my podcasts. So, if that is
Josh is an
actually that
Abigail.
if it is actually that common to have anxious attachment and your audience stand-in is anxious
Mm,
attachment, I think that makes a lot of sense, number 1, and if the key characteristic is high anxiety and you're having your audience stand-in react to these insane situations that Ben is getting him into, he's having the appropriate reaction.
very true.
So good writing.
Yay, good job, Raiders. So another characteristic of this is feeling less than others, also known as like low self-esteem.
100% agree to this one too, right? I mean, w it's kind of the butt of the joke of every Riley interaction in the second movie, right? Where, like, he's constantly not the one being recognized, he doesn't feel like he gets his credit. We also know in the first movie, as stated by the Urban Outfitters scene, that he frequently feels like he is behind the 8 ball in terms of the historical knowledge. I think this aligns with the chapter I wrote about Riley in my book, where it seems like he needs to prove himself, whether socially or what have you. So 100% agree here too.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of going along with that, like another trait is seeking external validation. For this, I literally think of him being like, well, if you read my book, and like no one did, and then him being
Mm-hmm.
really sad about it,
Mm-hmm.
which understandably, but
Or wanting the women at the book signing to like pay attention to him and see value in him.
hmm. And then the last one that I picked out on this personality, or sorry, this is attachment style, is needing people in your life, but also simultaneously fearing their rejection or criticism. He needs Ben in his life, I think, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I think he is also constantly living in a state of whether or not he fully expresses it, like concern that his lack of historical knowledge or the fact that his friends didn't read his book and that kind of
Mm.
stuff, it makes him you know concerned that he's going to be rejected.
Sure, I also look at it as, like, I mean, if he's the conspiracy guy, and that's not, like, the popular thing to believe in, I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and this part of this seeking external validation and proving himself, but I think there's also, he probably has this fear, or at least the fear manifests when his friends supposedly haven't read his book that are about this topic that they clearly don't believe in. They reject these theories of his, etc. So I think if he's looking for the rejection, he can find it.
Hmm, that's true. I think that's true of all of us.
Probably.
Okay, so then I also, for Riley, I went with a work attachment style as well, just because I kind of looked at what he's doing with Ben as a bit of his job. Um, and for that, he's just preoccupied. Um, that's the
Mm,
attachment style. So this is basically high anxiety and low avoidance. So Riley is super stressed every step of the treasure hunt, but
yep.
he goes along with Ben anyway.
Yeah.
He's not avoiding it.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's voicing his concerns, but he's not confident enough. He doesn't have the self-esteem to really push back. Right? He's just going to give Ben the counterpoints and then say, "All right, guess we're doing it live." Um I just think this goes to show why he's such a good complement to Ben when their mentalities are so opposite in the confidence front, and obviously we know they have complementary skill sets. But one question I have for you is, we talk a lot about how Riley's main motivation that is obvious to us is the money, right?
Mhm.
Or the status. How does that fit in here, if at all?
Well, I mean, I think if he can achieve that money or status, then he feels like that is at the external validation that he
Mm,
needs.
gotcha.
Um, and I don't think it would actually fix this for him, but it seems as though he would believe that gaining this would make people like him more or respect him more or be
Hmm.
less likely to just like abandon him.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, when I think of these three hero or main characters as a unit, which oddly enough, I don't think we've ever done before, so I'm really glad we get to do this now. I am struck by I was struck by when I was thinking about the motivations of the characters, how complementary all three of them are. And now that I also am hearing the different attachment styles, those are also complementary. No two characters have the same motivation. No two characters have the same attachment style. So they represent almost like a whole character and it like as a unit, and they represent any motivation or attachment style in many ways that like an average viewer might have. So that helps to ensure that
Mm,
every single viewer of this movie can relate to the hero team. It doesn't have to be Ben, but someone on that hero team is someone you can relate to, and
yeah.
I just find that so interesting.
Yeah. It's really cool because I don't think the writers went and were like, let's look at these attachment styles and make sure everyone fits. But it's
No,
like
but
a
does it
side effect of the way that the characters were written that you're able to do that, which is
I
really
do
cool.
wonder if it's, like you said, a side effect of something else they were going for, which is just like make this well-rounded hero unit such that anyone and everyone will, gravitate to one of the people in the unit, or even the fact that if you consider them as one, as if they make one whole person, they are the most complete person you could possibly have. And I don't know if that is an intentionality when you go in and write a fictional character or characters, but I just found this really mystifying.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that it worked out that way. It definitely makes me have like a bigger appreciation for like an Abigail,
Yes.
who's someone that we like don't necessarily talk about as
Yeah.
much on this
Mhm.
front, so I like that.
It does make me feel like it gives her a real purpose, Because we talk a lot
Yeah.
about, like, the unique skills that Ben brings, the unique skills that Riley brings. We don't
Mhm.
bring that as much for Abigail. We really talk about her as a compliment to Ben, which isn't the most feminist thing we could possibly do, to be honest. So in this regard, it really does give her a niche that I like a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'm excited. Are we going on to the parents and the secondaries?
Uh, yeah, but remember for these, I didn't fill out quizzes for them. I we are picking I am picking from the attachment styles we've discussed and trying to back it up with some reasoning.
This is very experiential learning. I mean, it's like we learn the attachment styles in the context of some characters we know really well, and now we're going to apply our knowledge.
Exactly.
You're being a
Exactly.
professor here, Emily. I see it.
Which is good because that is my job.
Yeah,
So let's start with Patrick.
let's
So
start with Patrick.
Patrick Gates. We cannot just think of him in the context of Ben, but we don't really know much about him outside of the context of Ben and
Mm.
Emily.
Mhm.
So I think that his attachment style is closest to the avoidant dismissive attachment style, which, as a reminder, is what Abigail is.
Ooh. Oh, that's interesting.
So I didn't actually pick it because of like I was trying to make like
No, of course not.
Abigail and
But that
Patrick
makes me think
connection.
that makes me think things though. We'll get there.
Makes you think things.
Yeah.
So my logic for this, and you feel free to tell me if you agree, is that he does seem to keep people, even Ben, at arm's length sometimes. It seems like he very much kind of pushed everyone away.
Mhm.
Um, he is semi-independent, and he does seem relatively confident in himself. He at least seems confident in his decision to no longer be part of the
Right.
treasure hunt, and like it's kind of
Yeah.
clear it's not because he doesn't know history, it's just because like it's the opposite. It's because he does know history and he's like, this
Right.
isn't there. I
Right.
will say that under the surface, I think he might be leaning a little towards anxious preoccupied, which is our Riley. um because I think he does care like what Ben thinks, and is honestly probably a little afraid of complete abandonment.
Okay. I very much agree, at least with the avoidant dismissive angle, based on the way you've described it. And the reason I was so like reactionary when you said that this is similar to Abigail, and then the way you described Patrick yourself as being like, no, I do know the history and it is not there. Like that is the role that Abigail started with in the trio hunt, right? Like she's the one saying, no, it's not there. We know it's on the back. We've studied it for years, right? And then I find it interesting how I don't know, this isn't necessarily like a trend, but I feel like people talk a lot about people finding partners who are similar in some ways to their parents. And then realizing that Ben ends up, at least as far as we know, with Abigail, who is similar, at least in this way, to his father. I don't know.
Mm.
I just find that. Did that cross your mind at all?
It didn't. um oh
And
I
it's
mean,
almost like especially because he had such a poor relationship with his dad. Like I said, between the Helen Mirren and the Patrick of it all, I always ascribed a worse relationship to Ben and Patrick.
Mhm.
Um, so like if Ben, there could be like an underlying psychology here or like a subconscious thing going on where if he can actually have a productive and healthy relationship with someone who is like his dad, i.e. Abigail, it's almost like fixing that relationship, right? Like proving he can be in a productive relationship with someone who is avoidant dismissive.
Mm. Hmm. I don't know. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I feel like you don't know what to say to anything that I'm saying today, and I don't know what to think of that.
They're just it's just different points than I was thinking of, but it's like kind of like you said, like I need time to process that. That thought
Yeah.
has never occurred to me, and I it's a
It
good
never occurred
thought.
to me until right now. But that's what's fun about these episodes is we never know where they're gonna land, and in some ways it usually does end up that we are illuminating something we haven't thought of before. So for me already today, it's like, all right, Riley is written as the perfect audience stand-in, right? Ben is attracted to someone who has a similar attachment style to his dad. Like, there's a lot here that I'm gonna have to like, I'm excited to re-listen to this episode before we put it out when we do our, like, review, so I can, like, really
Mm.
let it sink in, you know?
Okay, well, let's just continue to blow your mind then. Let's talk about
Okay.
Emily. Emily
Okay.
Appleton, Dr. Helen Mirren.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think she is probably closest to a secure attachment style,
A
which
Ben.
is Ben.
Yeah.
Um, she was the one to end the marriage, or at least kind of like put that in motion and like literally leave. Like Patrick still has a lot of her stuff. Um, she's very high up in her field, which is similar to Abigail. So she clearly had like the confidence and
Yeah.
self-awareness to get there. We actually hear in the second film some students do make comments to suggest that she's like a particularly difficult teacher, which means that like once again, she is confident in her own abilities and is not
Yep.
afraid to be like, I'm not going to let your feelings about me change the way that I'm doing my job. Like I know I'm doing it well.
Mhm. Mhm.
I will say that I do think she has the tendencies possibly to lean towards an avoidant dismissive though, which is our main Patrick one.
Mhm.
Um because she literally avoids Patrick, which I recognize as taking it very literally. But
Mhm.
she is very independent and she does want to be seen that way.
Yeah.
We could argue that that is evidenced by, you know, the fact that she's good with her students, you know, kind of dragging her through the mud a little bit.
Oh, sure.
And then she does seem somewhat reluctant to get close to people again. Like she talks to Ben, she talks to Abigail, but it's not like the vibes that I was getting from her interactions with her students and stuff was not like, let me try to build a relationship with you, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I fully agree with all most most all of that. I will say that um I don't think she avoids Patrick. I really don't. Like I think that if she ran into him at Costco, I don't think she would pretend she didn't see him. I think she would confront him, which to me only like she just doesn't seek him out, right? That's a little bit different than just straight up avoiding. And so I do think she very snugly falls into the camp of secure. And once again, thinking of Ben as a secure attachment style and thinking of him as having more a slightly healthier relationship with his mom, it might make sense because they come from similar places in that regard. I also think it's interesting because Ben very clearly could have been an Emily. He is
Mhm.
smart enough and has the education. He could have gone and been this professor. So like and I if you imagine Ben as a professor, do you not imagine him as someone who is a little bit colder, a little more standoffish? Could you not imagine that student running out of the office? I hate him, just like the student
Mhm.
did about Emily. I think they're very similar.
That's true. And I think something interesting to consider there is given that they have such similar attachment styles, it is interesting that they ended up on opposite sides of this treasure hunt. Um,
Mhm.
at least in the first film. But Patrick stayed on the treasure hunt team for presumably a little longer, right, than
Mm.
Emily did. And so even though Ben has a more similar attachment style, he's kind of doing things in the opposite direction that his mom is.
Yeah, and I think that's just like differences in the way the secureness is manifesting, right? Like Emily is doubling down on the respected historical community. Ben is saying, I am so secure in my knowledge that I'm going to take it a step further and interpret it the way it's meant to be interpreted. So it's just like different ways of applying the same feeling. And this is what I think is interesting about now if we can think about Emily and Patrick as a unit, right? Because they are our parent characters, but they also were at one point married and presumably now are again, thanks Edge of History. Um, can these roles or like attachment styles be compatible, do we think? Like, can they work together to have a healthy relationship of any kind?
I mean, I think so, but presumably Ben and Abigail are doing okay,
I
and
agree.
they have those.
I think that this, in a way, is a model of like what it's it because we've now said that they're like Ben selected a partner who is similar to his dad and Ben is like his mom. We're seeing history repeat itself in the way these family structures are happening. So the only way I'd be interested in seeing a Ben Abigail child in National Treasure 3 is to see how consistent, like, how these like character traits are passed down and the relationships are passed down, if it would manifest in the same way it did with Ben coming from his parents, because we're seeing the exact same type of unit, it's just gender swapped. Sorry, that was
Mm.
kind of convoluted. Do you understand what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I know what you
Okay,
mean. I'm also taking it from the perspective of you've been spending a little time with Haley on Zoom, my daughter, and therefore maybe are more open to the idea of a
absolutely
child
not. I
being.
do not want a child in this movie. I will be so mad. I will be so mad. But I would
While all,
you can rest assured that if there is a child, we will do an episode on that exact topic that we just discussed, is I guess what I'm saying.
and while Aubrey is on her being mad phase, let's talk about villains who are often mad. It was a great transition there.
That
So Ian, these were hard. Okay, these aren't going to be that long. They were hard. I picked a couple things, and we're going to move on so nobody thinks too hard about it. So
Okay.
Ian, I think his attachment style is secure, which I think is partially due to his like status within his own community. He doesn't seem afraid of people leaving him. Like it seems like he is pretty sure like his henchmen are there. He
Mhm.
seems very confident in his abilities, like even if it's not his own abilities.
Mhm.
um and then he does care deeply for people. He's not avoiding relationships with people. And so like what I'm thinking about is like Shaw. Like when
Mhm.
Shaw,
Mhm.
fell into the pit, he was like very clearly like not okay about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Shaw of it all is honestly probably one of your strongest points here. I do think he has a great deal of confidence, especially because he is trying to solve the clues, which will differ from our other villain that we'll talk about momentarily. Um, but does his money motivation make sense here, or is that just completely separate?
I think it totally makes sense. I think that is what allows him to have a secure attachment style because he has money. Like, I know he wants
Mm,
more, but
mhm.
he is funding Ben's operation.
Yeah.
So he has the money, he has status, he has that security blanket of good finances,
Mhm.
presumably. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean he doesn't want more, but
Mhm.
I think that actually plays into it really well.
What's interesting here, and not that this doesn't make me disagree with anything you've said, but I do think it's interesting that we are assigning the same attachment style to Ian that we are to Ben. And we frequently say that while we there's debate as to whether or not they were friends in the beginning, um, we do say that Mitch is more similar to Ben in the motivations front. So I'm assuming we're not going to have the same attachment style for Ian and Mitch, because I think that would actually get really boring if they were the same. And yet, Mitch is not as similar to Ben attachment style-wise.
Mhm. Do you wanna hear what Mitch's is?
I do.
So, I think Mitch's is anxious/preoccupied.
So that was
That's
Riley?
that was Riley. So think about it. Mitch has this he has the motivation to do what he does in the second film because he wants to make a name for himself. Riley also wants to make a name for himself through certain means. Mitch
Right.
wants to make a name for his family, presumably because he doesn't feel respected. He doesn't feel as though he
Yeah.
really has people in his corner. You know, we don't know what his family life is like, if they've abandoned him, anything like that, but it feels like he is clinging a little more to some of these things than one would if they had like a very secure attachment with kind of like familial figures. Mitch also gets flapped, I feel like, a little more easily than someone like Ian. Partially because he does like he can't solve the clues. And like I think he recognizes that, which means that like he's I think he sees that as like a detriment in himself and then
Hmm.
probably makes him feel bad about himself, which is why he's like trying so hard to win this thing of his family. And
Yeah.
while the family component, I think, right, is the same between Mitch and Ben, I think it's like almost the way that Mitch goes about it, or maybe the basis behind it, is what makes him more similar attachment style wise to O'Reilly.
I have a couple thoughts here. Number one, I don't know that I agree that he sees it as a problem that he doesn't know the history and like can't solve the clues. At least not externally. I think he's totally fine with being like, "I'll just follow you around. All I care about is the end game here." Um, but because that's all he cares about, I do agree that he has very low self-esteem from the perspective of why is he doing this to begin with. It does make me think that Ben has a hint of anxious preoccupied in him because Ben is ultimately also trying to like in the first movie prove that the Gates family isn't crazy. So there's maybe a little insecurity there. And in the second movie, literally clear the name of his ancestor so that he's not thought of as like the descendant of a Lincoln assassin. Um, so it is making me think of Ben as having a little tiny wisp of anxious in him. The other thing I'm going to say is this is now the second time this season of our show that we have now said that Riley and Mitch have some similarities. I believe in our playlist episode, right, we were talking about how my choice of the song Hall of Fame could apply almost
Mm.
equally to Riley or Mitch. And we've never discussed that before this season, and now it's come up twice.
Yeah, it's not making me feel great because I like Riley and I don't like Mitch. But if anything, I feel like that makes it a more real observation, possibly with more likelihood of being true, because that means that I'm actually putting on my like objective hat for this exercise,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because otherwise I would be like, they're not the same at all.
Right. 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 No, I
But it
agree.
is
This
interesting.
it is. And it's I'm really gonna have to sit with this a little bit and maybe even reread my own character analysis of Riley to see if anything there could also apply to Mitch. Because if this keeps coming up as a motif, we're gonna have to do a Mitch Riley episode at some point, which I know would make you very uncomfy.
But
Um,
I would do Riley and you would do Mitch because you like
it's
Mitch.
it's not about doing the character. It's about like treating them as what are their similarities. It's not like talking about them individually. But I do want to point out we did not do Sadusky in this
We didn't
exercise.
do Sadusky. No.
Um, I don't know why that like I personally didn't have much to say about him in my own notes, so in terms of psychology, so I don't know if you have any thoughts you want to share about Sadusky just off the top before we wrap up. Or if you don't want to, that's fine. I'll take that as a win in my column of Sadusky sucks.
I have to say that I think with Sadusky, I'm still a little confused about his like his motivations, his character. And so I think trying to put one of these attachment styles on him would
Mm,
have been really,
really hard.
really challenging. Honestly, I'm going to equate it to the fact that I didn't ascribe an attachment style to the villain of Water, because Water
Mm,
can take so many forms and plays so many roles in the National Treasure franchise, right? Like, it is the villain, but it also is used on the rocks to uncover the eagle, right? So, like,
it also is a magnifying glass, and
it is.
they use a dollar bill to find in the water to find their way out of Cibola. Like, it's a
I think
complex
Water and
character.
Sadusky are both complex.
Wow.
Maybe some of the most complex characters we get.
Add that to the list of revelations we have made in this episode on the psychology of National Treasure's movie characters. Before we tell you what you need to do after this episode, your call to action today, I just want to give you, like, as I am wont to do, a secondary call to action. Do you want to see us do this for the Edge of History characters? Because I now kind of want to do it. And in a weird way, because we have 10 episodes with most of those characters, we might actually have more to go on. And this could actually get really interesting. So tell me that in our social media shout out that Emily will do momentarily. But there's something else Emily wants you to do today. What is that, Em?
Yes, so your call to action is to see if you can fill out an attachment quiz in the mindset of one of the characters either that we talked about or that we didn't talk
Mhm.
about. Like, if you want to take on Water, more power to you.
Or
Um,
Sadusky,
or
you know?
Sadusky. You can use the same one that we used, which will be in the link in the show notes. But please do that and send us the results, because
Yeah.
I did the best that I could. But even if you want to do like a Abigail or a Riley or a Ben, like, let us know, because I'm interested to see how other people might answer the questions about them. And to tell us what your results are from doing this, you can find us on both X and Instagram at NT Hunt Podcast, our website, nthuntpodcast.com. Please leave us a rating and review before you exit out of that podcasting platform. And if you are watching us on YouTube, or let's be honest, if you're not, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm not sitting here in front of a microphone trying to stay centered in the screen and
And by
smiling all the
microphone,
time.
you mean camera.
There's a microphone too.
There is, but
I'm
okay.
not doing all this work for people not to watch it. So get to it, y'all.
All right, you guys, next episode, we are finally giving you the first of 2 National Treasure in real life episodes of season 12. We will be watching seasons 1 and 2 of The Curse of Oak Island. This show has been recommended to us so many times, and we are very excited to finally be covering it for you. Spoiler alert, there's a lot of National Treasure in it. So, like, this is going to be a fun time. If you want to go watch along before you listen to the episode, now is your chance to do so. But until then, I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Emily.
and thank you so much for joining us on our National Treasure Hunt.